Hey, it's your girl MJ, and welcome to the Booty Call to Bride channel. My name is Michelle Tillman, and today we are talking about Married at First Sight, Season 12, Episode number 6. Fun fact, I have worked on tons of reality shows in my past. I was a broadcast journalism major, did all that, so I have a lot of, feels and thoughts about things that go on reality TV. So I want to leave you guys with this review today. So this should be basically called the Chris and Paige show, because every week there's new drama, there's new stuff, and it's like, I just don't understand how she's even sticking around. So I got lots of notes. So I'm gonna be looking down, and my glasses are tilted up because my ring light looks crazy in my glasses if it's not tilted. So anywho, so Paige comes on and she says, right now I'm overwhelmed about everything, knowing that his fiance is 6 weeks pregnant. So let's go ahead and address that. She's 6 weeks pregnant, which means that they recently had sex. Very recently, like 6 weeks ago. Like maybe less than 6 weeks. I forgot exactly how the math goes with pregnancy. But basically you're 4 weeks automatically when you find out. So no, maybe like 2 weeks ago. Somebody dropped that in the comments. I should know about this because I recently had a baby. But that means they recently had sex. So he knew that the child was his, to me, because probably they were still together. Like that just seems really like, he was all offended when Virginia asked that question, but at the same time, it's like, how do you know if y'all wasn't together? So that's a whole nother speculation that I'm just guessing and making. So she also said, Paige said she wants to stay, but she's just taking it day by day. But Virginia brought up a good point to her. She was like, you have to consider how the baby and the baby mama will be in your life in the future. It's not just, do you want to be with Chris? Do you want to accept everything else that's going to come along with being with someone who has a child by someone else, and a new child at that, when they haven't figured out the dynamics of their co-parenting agreement? Paige and Clara, not Paige and Clara and Virginia just kept saying how, couldn't be them. Brianna basically said the same thing, that they don't think they could deal with all the stuff that Paige is having to deal with. So Chris, when he's talking with the guys, they had a little scene of that. He's telling them that Paige is number one. And then Eric asked Chris if Paige is going to stick it out. And he keeps telling Eric is telling Chris, well, you need to man up if you want things to work out, and yada, yada, yada. And Chris really doesn't like those words, manning up. To him, he was like, well, the ultimate man up is for me to tell on national television that I have a baby on the way to my new wife. Well, actually, Chris, you ran in the bathroom, you turned on the shower, and you took your mics off and you whispered to her. So let's make sure you don't give yourself too much kudos and points for telling what any person should be telling someone they're married to. Like, you don't get points and kudos for that, but whatever. So Chris then goes to commending Paige on how she's handling everything with grace, and he knows that getting married means that she comes before everybody else. He keeps saying that, God and her, and like he throws all the stuff in, which I'll get to that later. So she's thinking about when they get back to Atlanta, how things will be different. And then they start talking about her dog and how she's saying her dog sleeps in the bed. And he was like, oh, heck no, dog ain't sleeping through the bed. And then she was like, well, at least you could take him out for a walk or whatever. And he was looking at her like, I ain't taking no dog out for a walk. So there's two sides to the whole dog thing. One, she's sitting there like, listen, I'm accepting the fact that you gonna have a whole nother child and you can't take my dog on a walk. But some people just not dog people. So I still don't like Chris, but I'm just saying, when you're not a dog person and then someone wants them to be in the bed and taking them out for walks, that could be overwhelming. But in her defense, everything that he's been doing to her is overwhelming. So he don't even get any grace with that. Then they start talking about bank accounts. Okay, this is a touchy subject because some of y'all are gonna be like, I don't see anything wrong with separate bank accounts. I'm old school. I'm very traditional when it comes to stuff like that. All of our money is going to the same bank account. It's our money. It doesn't matter how much who puts in it. If we're in a team and we're doing this together, I believe in one bank account. So they can have that decision later. But then she mentioned something about, she only makes a quarter of what he makes, which in the beginning, they made it seem like she was so successful. She owns these homes. She's a real estate agent. She does this, she does that. So I'm just like, well, how much does he make? Or was he lying? Because people online saying that he's broke and he used to own a Subway restaurant. I don't know about all that. I don't know what's true, what's not. I don't know if she's seen receipts and proof to show what money he makes. I don't know. But that's a whole nother thing that they'll have to figure out. So Clara and Virginia said that Paige is the best person for Chris's circumstances and all his drama. Chris said like he was mad about all the fake concern from Eric and Virginia. He said that he has gone above and beyond by telling her everything. And like I said earlier, even Virginia was like above and beyond. She didn't say Negro, but Negro, how you go above and beyond by just telling her what you should tell her? Why do you feel like that's going above and beyond? You did bare minimum of what you should be doing. And he kept saying how he don't owe them no apology. He don't owe them no explanation. All he wants is privacy. He been saying that from the beginning. And he was saying, everything that you asked was inappropriate about, is that baby really yours? I'm saying that the same way Paige was like, well, I didn't even ask that yet. If I was Paige, that would have been my first question. Are you sure the baby is yours? So I know it was out of line possibly for Virginia to ask that, but it is a legit question. So when they over at the ATV park, I thought they was really going to fight. So Chris and Eric are going back and forth with each other, like talking about stay on my business. And Chris is going in on Virginia. And so Eric kind of like just said, let's get away from it, trying to diffuse the situation. But then he put his hand on Chris's shoulder, and I was like, you don't put your hand on a black man's shoulder, it's about to go down. So then, they act like, Chris sweeps Paige away, and she agrees to go with him and says, we're leaving this conversation. But then they get in the van, and Chris is like, I'm about to make this van ride a living hell for them. And he turned up on them in the van. Then they just cut to a commercial, and we didn't get to see like, well, how did they resolve that? What happened in the van? Okay, production team, what happened with that? I wanted to see how they resolved, because then we jumped to the dinner table, and Paige, starts off a little speech like, I just really appreciate everybody being supportive of everything that we're going through, like, making her first lady speech. And then Chris goes in to apologize and just said how, again, he was just looking for privacy. I did not notice that when they was at the table that Eric and Virginia weren't even there yet. I didn't even notice until they showed up late, which is a recurring theme. They're always late. And I guess Eric did mention that Virginia's always late. So I kind of see what he's saying now. Like, she's late. Like, this is the production. We're on a schedule. So every time you're late for stuff, like, you throw a loop for everything. And that's kind of like what happened with that dinner, because Brianna even said, like, if they would have been on time, maybe this whole blow up could have been avoided. But because they were late, they didn't get to hear Chris's apology. Now, was his apology authentic? And he was like, praising Paige and saying, I want to publicly apologize to you, and I wasn't the man of God that I should be. He making me sick with this. Him and Paige, like, they just throwing this God and man of God and woman of God stuff all around, and then being totally ratchet the next minute. Like, just you don't have to do all that. Just be whoever you are, and just let us see who you are. You don't have to portray and talk about religion all the time to try to make us feel like you're something that you want to be perceived as. I don't understand why they keep doing that. So, he also apologized to Ryan and Clara, and then whenever Eric comes, now he didn't have all day to think about how Chris disrespected his wife. So he came to the table like, hey buddy, like what you're not gonna do is talk to my wife like this. But sir, you done built up all your boldness all afternoon just so you could finally talk back to Chris. You should have did that exactly when it was happening, but okay, that's another point. So he done got all his confidence so he could talk back to Chris at the table, probably when it's a little more safe, because you wasn't saying none of this in the van, you wasn't saying none of this in the ATV. Not saying that he wasn't right for addressing Chris, but I just kind of feel like, oh, now you got confidence, now you about to take up for your wife after you didn't have time to sit on and think. She probably told him, you better say something to him. She probably like, really boosted him up to do that, but whatever. So they just trying to get real mad and act like they're about to fight, and then Vince is pulling Chris back. I'm like, what is going on? Like, is this Married at First Sight? Or is this Maury? Like, is this basketball? Like, what is going on? Because there's usually not that much drama in these shows. I'm still on page 3, and this is all about Paige and Chris. So one of the things that I really have noticed is that anytime Chris is in trouble with Paige, all he has to do is say something like God, Jesus, spirituality, and then all of a sudden she's smiling and cheesing again. I'm like, girl, don't you realize that he's picked up on what makes you feel like everything's okay, and then he's using it? Like, he is really being a serious, sickening person to really play and prey, no pun intended, on everything that makes her feel secure. Like apologizing about not being a man of God, and calling her a woman of God, and speaking about how she prays so well and all this stuff, and how only his grandmas pray for him and all this. And I'm just like, girl, he just knows the lingo. He knows religious, spiritual lingo to say, Christian lingo to say, and you just keep falling for it. I really hope that Paige recognizes that he is using the lingo on you just to reel you in. So then by the end of the episode, because I know I'm talking about this way too long, by the end of the episode, she's asking him where he's at emotionally and mentally, and he's still thinking about getting back with the baby mama. Like, I don't want my son or daughter to be raised by another man. I'm like, okay, well, that's what happens when you're not married, when you have a baby, or when you're married and you separate. Like, you are taking the possibility that someone else is going to raise your child, but it doesn't mean they're going to raise them. It just means they're going to be a part of their life. You still raise them as their parent. It's just going to be a different type of relationship than what you expected. So I'm just like, what you mean? Like, so now you're considering this, but then again, she's all mad about it. But then again, he brings up some other stuff. He says some God and Jesus stuff again, and then she's all smiling again by the end of the episode. Girl, this is toxic. And it's like, I heard from Kev on Stage and Melissa Fredericks Miss Kev on Stage talking about toxic religion or toxic Christianity. I can't remember what they called it, to where people really abuse like things like that to manipulate people and to make them feel, comforted, false sense of comfort by, using those terms. So you know what? She wants to deal with this nonsense from Chris, then so be it. I mean, the next episode, it looks like the baby mama's about to blow up on them, so I don't know how that's going to work out. So he wants to continue talking with his ex, back and forth. Paige is going to have to make a decision, and I hope that she chooses herself. I hope that she chooses her sanity. I hope that she doesn't allow him to continue to use a religion and religious terminology to control her and confuse her, because she's most definitely confused. Brianna and Vincent. Okay, y'all, can I just say, I told y'all that little bossiness was going to come out, and Vincent has brought it up already. Like, I can see the bossiness, and he's saying he moves a little slower, and ain't nobody going to rush him. Ain't nobody going to rush him. AKA, I don't care if you my wife and I married you at first sight. You're not going to rush me. You're not going to change me. So I saw a little bit of that feistiness that I was saying. I wonder if he has it. I saw that coming out in him, and I was like, but to his defense, like, she does recognize that she's bossy, and I love the way that she did say, I didn't know I was coming off like that, and I don't want to come off like that. But acknowledgement is just like the first step. So I have issues, similar to that. So I understand how that can be. But acknowledging how you come off and actually changing it, it does take time. So I hope that over time she can change and mold and realize how she comes off to him, because he feels it's disrespectful. And when you disrespect someone, that's a hard thing to come back from. But one thing I do like about Vincent is that when he does feel disrespected, even if he hasn't said it on camera, he is like actually saying, hey, I feel disrespected when you do XYZ, so that she has the opportunity to change it. So if he's telling her, it's up to her now if she's going to change the way that she's making him feel disrespectful for being so bossy and stuff like that. So then we have Clara and Ryan. Ryan saying the marriage feels like an incredible first date. Clara said that she was in show choir. She loved to be the center of attention, which I can totally see that for her. She always dated people who liked her less than she liked them. And she went on a lot of first dates and apps and stuff like that. So, but she is concerned about him not telling anyone that he loved them before. She is also very into talking about, Paige and Chris's relationship. And I kept saying every episode, does Ryan have an opinion? Because they're not showing it. And he finally said today, I learn a whole lot more listening than I do talking. So sometimes you got to learn to shut your mouth. I was like, oh, Ryan got a little something to say. Okay, Ryan, you got a little something to say. I was shocked. He one of them quiet people who hit you with the boom, boom. Like you wasn't even expecting him to come at her like that. So he's basically saying, hush your mouth. Then when Ryan said he don't want to talk about our sexual, physical relationship on camera, he wants to keep it private. That's telling me, yes, y'all definitely did something, but he don't want to talk about it. Why he doesn't want to talk about it, I don't know. You're married. I know his family is a minister and stuff, so maybe he's trying to protect them and he don't want to talk about a whole bunch of sexual stuff on TV because of that. I don't know, but I just think that's kind of weird. She says it seems a little controlling. I'm not sure if it's controlling. I just think he's very moderate and modest when it comes to discussing those type of things. Knowing his background now, I kind of understand why he might be that way, even though for somebody like her who wants to talk about everything, that's probably gonna be real tough. So Haley and Jacob. Okay, was I the only one who was shocked when she said they did the do? I was like, wait, what? She must have really been drunk, because she does not seem to like him. So I don't understand how that even came to play. She was just saying it was drunk and all this stuff. And then he was like, basically after we had sex, she started acting different. Sir, come here. Let me tell you what that means. That means you sucked. That means the sex was awful. That means maybe she didn't like you and she thought, kind of like Chris did with Paige, if I have a little of the sex, then maybe I will like him. But that backfired, and now she don't want to be around him at all. And he keeps saying the problem is probably you, because you have this wall up. I just think he's not her type of guy. And I don't think, even if he's the most amazing guy, I just don't think they're different types of lifestyles, like, and personalities, and just how they are. Like, he's a 70s guy. She's really like, just a different type of woman that doesn't really go with the things that he has. So, he's saying how he doesn't get genuine responses from her. And he's basically saying, things can't keep going how they are if you want them to work. I don't think she cares if it doesn't work. I think that they're doomed. I don't think they're gonna make it. So Virginia and Eric, Eric kept saying how it's been absolutely unreal. He can't even explain how great things have been between him and Virginia. Even though he was falling asleep, he was trying to keep up with Virginia and getting drunk and stuff. And then finally he confronts her like, I ain't gonna be able to drink like you. I ain't gonna be able to do this. I love my career and all this, yada, yada. Like, he has this life planned and wants her to just fit right into the wife spot. And he's like, I ain't gonna be able to do what you're doing. And she's saying, well, Thursday through Saturday, I'm gonna turn up. So what you gonna do? Like, what you gonna do is you're gonna let me go turn up. Then they showed this flashback to her and Paige where she was like crying, like, he said I can't have any male friends. What am I gonna do? And then Paige is like, well, you know, you gotta baby step. Y'all gotta meet each other halfway. You gotta let him see how cool your guy friends are and how they don't like you, yada, yada, yada. And then, you know, maybe he'll be more comfortable then once he sees how y'all are together. Right now, it's just, you know, him hearing about it, he don't know. That's a whole nother story about the male friends part. I agree with both of them. Yes, maybe there are male friends that you can have, but I do agree for the most part also that either they're not attracted to you or there's some reason why you're only friends, unless you're like co-workers or something. Like, there's a reason why you're only friends. It's not because they're just so respectful. I just don't believe that. I agree with Eric on that end, but I also don't think you need to be controlling and so dogmatic about it. I think you got to be open to someone who's like 26. She still turns up Thursday through Saturday. Like, that's what I did in college, like 19, 18, you know. I probably stopped when I was 25. So she still got time and she feels like that's how she's going to live for the rest of her life, which she's not really recognizing that she probably won't, even though she might feel like she will. She probably won't. I just think that they have to balance each other out. But with him being so structured and you gotta be like this, and you think about being like a girlfriend, but you're a wife. You do realize you married now to me, and he is coming off too strong for somebody like Virginia. So Virginia also said at the end that she hates that people were mad at her. And so they kind of came together on the whole Chris and Paige thing because they're going through that together. They're keeping their united front, and they're just like, you know, we're not going to worry about the drama. But even though Virginia is kind of like, I don't like unresolved issues, but she also said, let my daddy or my brothers had been here, Chris would have got some. And I'm like, Chris, what you don't want is with them good old boys. That's what you don't want. You don't want them good old boys mad at you. So hopefully they clear that up, because you know, all types of N-words they're probably calling you right now on TV. So just saying, Chris, clear that up. I mean, you got a lot going on, but I still think he should clear that up, because no one should talk, in my opinion, to women the way he talked to them. And I hope Paige recognizes the same way he talked to them. When he gets mad enough at her, he gonna talk to her like that too. But that's back to Paige and Chris. They probably gonna get their own show when this is all over with, if they stick it out. But who knows? That's all I have for this week. Make sure you leave a thumbs up and comment on this video. Let me know what you think. I'll see y'all next week.